Let's get straight to it. 2019 Infiniti qx60. This is the V6 3.5 liter engine. And today I'll be changing the passenger side control arm. This is the left side. This is what the L here is for. And this is what your part should look like. It's gonna have a little bracket attached to it and 3 sides for connections. So I have the vehicle in the air. I have my jack stands, and I'm using the beam right down here in the center that runs from the front to the back. So once we get the tire off, you can see the control arm down here, and this is the first connection point that we need to remove. That's the second connection point right there, and the third one is right down here. So you can see there's a bolt here and a nut on this side that needs to be removed. So that nut is a 19 millimeter. To remove that nut, and that would you'll be able to get this ball joint removed from the bottom. And the 2 nuts on top are 21 millimeters. So that's 21 millimeter there and a 21 millimeter there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to get those. I'm gonna get these 2 off first. Once you get the bolts off the top, or the nuts off the top of it, then the easiest way to get these out is by just turning them out with a ratchet or a wrench, and they'll start to go down as you turn them. I'm gonna actually use my impact to get this out. So you can see it's working its way out. And now I can just turn it by hand and get that bolt out. Just keep working it counterclockwise, and the threads would work. Even though it's not threaded in there, it will still help to work its way out slowly. I'm gonna do the same thing to this side. I can actually turn that by hand. I'm gonna use the drill to get that mostly out. Like I said, even though it's not threaded in there, when you turn it counterclockwise, it can't help but work its way out because it's a tight fit. And then once you get it down enough to where you can just work it by hand, just do it that way until the bolt comes out. It's pretty easy actually. So once we get the connections off of here, we get the bolts out. Now we have this last connecting end to get off, which is this ball joint here. So there's a 18 millimeter nut right here that we need to get off. So I'm gonna get that off right now. I'm gonna use my impact. You can use a wrench or a ratchet with a socket, but I'm gonna use my impact to get this off right now. So once I got that bolt off, that nut off the bolt, I actually expected this thing to fight me, but it's really free, so that's a good thing. So we can just go ahead and pull that all the way out, and now we can work on getting that ball joint out of there. All right, so I'm gonna keep this simple. I'm just going to get, I have a pry bar, a large pry bar. I'm gonna get right in here and just pry, and just like that, you can see it's already removing itself there. So just pry until it comes all the way out. We almost got that there. Let's try flipping this over. We almost got it. And So finally, with a little bit of working, we were able to pop that all the way out. You can see it's free right there. All right, so now with this ball joint out here, we should be able to pull this end out. I'm gonna use my pry bar again. So these large pry bars definitely come in handy. I'm gonna use this to pry this back. Try to get some leverage in here. About right here. Let's try that. Alright, so that seemed to have done the job. So basically, getting right behind here did the job for pulling this part out. So I would try that first. All right, so we know we have this side loose and we have this side down here loose. So obviously it should be easy now to just swing that out, and that should just fall right out to the ground. So this is the old one. We'll take that and try to match it up with the new one to make sure everything looks right, and it does. So remove that. Don't forget to remove this plastic covering. And now we can go ahead and start installing this one. All right, so this is my trick to getting this in there nice and easy. So I'm using a jack and a piece of wood in between the rotor and the jack to make sure I don't damage this rotor. So I'm basically applying pressure to this so that I can raise this this rotor up and causing everything here to raise up, and I can slide this in straight instead of having to come in at an angle, which I had to do if I didn't raise this up. So I got in a little bit just so I can show you. So with this being up a little bit more, I'm able to get that in there. You can see this is almost straight and not at an angle. So I can just come in here now and pretty much just knock that in there. You can see it's going. I don't even have to use my hand. That's how easy it's going in. So that's what happens when you do the jack method. So we have space to get those in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting my bolts into these, and then once my bolts are in here, I'll go ahead and put this end in. All right, so here's a tip. When you need to line these bolt holes up from underneath, use a flathead screwdriver, and you can get them from, as long as you can see it. You see, you can get in there, you can turn it and pry it until it's lined up like that. And you can get one bolt in from the bottom, and the top might not be lined up. So once you get the bottom of the bolt in through the bottom, then you can come through the top with the screwdriver and line the top end up with the bolt in, and you should be able to push the bolt up the rest of the way. So once you get these bolts in a little bit, you might have to do the same thing we did to get them out. Just turn them until they're threaded all the way through, and then you'll be able to push it up through the shank part. But you don't want to force those threads through there and hammer it through or anything, because that's when you end up damaging these threads. So just turn them in there, even though it's not threaded. So now I can just push this up. All right, so now I can go to the top and see what's stopping. So now that we're on top, we can see that the hole on top isn't lined up, but we do have our bolt started in. So now we can use the same screwdriver technique and just pry that until we can line up that bolt hole. And you most likely have to use two hands, one hand to line up the hole and the other hand to push the bolt through from the bottom. So both of those sides are totally in and tight. And so only thing we have to do now is let this jack down very slowly. Be sure not to damage the boot on the that ball joint down there. And once it's lowered all the way down, we can use a pry bar to set that in. So in order to get this in, I'm able to get the pry bar right underneath here, and you can see where I have it set. And now I can pry this up and down, and I can also move this this spindle part around until I can line this up and get it right in there. And once I get it in a little bit, I can just hit on the bottom right here. All right, so this one was pretty easy. I was able to get that in there using the pry bar, and then I was able to get everything tightened up. All right, so that's it. I got all the connections back buttoned down.